And I did not do that the first time. So I was billed $25,000 by the IRS. Now we're spending about $100K a week on stock. If you're not good or you don't pick up quick enough, we will fire you within a week. Like, I don't care anymore. I think last year I fired about 60.
60?
Yeah, no more.
That's a tough. You think it's a good or bad thing? The awareness of it.
Bad. I was thinking of scaling to 8 million this year, but the challenge I have is that I don't understand the direction of Amazon. Would I recommend Amazon to like a new business owner? Never, man. Never in a million years.
I just don't know how these people like sleep at night.
Like every new account will get Section 3 is how it feels right now. Is that the sign of the end of Amazon? Or is it still fine? Or is Amazon just cutting out the smaller sellers and wants to keep big sellers only? Everybody's always talking about like brand exclusives and like how it's going so well for them. But I've never shown anyone show actual proof of it.
So you think these people are kind of like lying about this stuff?
Not lying, but is the opportunity really as good as they're saying? The thing where you do like group wholesale buys, like what's that all about? I know a lot about that, but it's like, am I giving too much sauce here?
We don't have that many listeners, man, but you never know.
But I know that there's been a lot of people importing from like Turkey buying fake socks. One of the guys who did it had no experience. In the first 3 months, he did 750K in revenue.
We'd be millionaires by now. And then show it all on Twitter and sell mentorships. Then you'd be really...
Exactly. But if we're only focused on a downtrending business when there's better opportunities, there's a level of opportunity cost there. Don't lower your standards to spend more money. If the market changes, you'll be hit worse because you won't be able to take the margin hit.
What if the people are super intelligent?
Maybe I'm a little bit too on this, actually. Holy shit.
No, it's okay. I'll make a good clip.
Before we get into today's episode, if you guys could take 5 minutes to fill out a quick survey down below. We're trying to make the podcast better for you. For everyone who fills it out, we're randomly going to pick a winner to win a $100 Amazon gift card. There's about 23 people who have already filled it out, so your chances are pretty good at winning this gift card. So if you could just take 5 minutes, we really want to make this podcast better this year and exactly what you want it. So take a minute, fill out the survey. Today is the last day you could do it. So do that and enjoy the podcast. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. Today we have Gavin Sweeney. He did $4 million last year on Amazon doing wholesale and online arbitrage. So we're going to dive into kind of his strategies. He had a account health scare. We'll probably get into that a little bit. We were just talking crypto and all this other stuff. So what's going on, man? Thanks for being here.
Hey, man. Super well. Thank you for inviting me. Very curious and interested to see how this will go.
Yeah, we usually try to get into, it's not... We'll interview, but it's not as much as like an interview, Amazon technical stuff, kind of just like getting to know the guests better. Cause I feel like most stuff online right now is like interview, do you have any hacks on this? But it's like, we kind of just want to like shoot the shit, get into the mental aspect of stuff too. So give us a little intro to start though. I know you started like back in COVID, I think around when I started, so it should be a good story to start.
Yeah, I started back in COVID times. I think, was that 2020?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that's 5 years, man. Holy crap.
I know.
But anyway, I started with just like 1.5K. I started in the UK doing retail arbitrage in London, which meant, and I had no car, so I was just going around with some plastic bags on the tube, the underground transport, going to like all the shops, carrying it all back to my flat, sending it off that way. Then I scaled up to OA, and then I quit the UK, and then we moved to America like 2.5 years ago, and it's been an absolute gold mine ever since. Like, the USA is just such a massive marketplace. It has all the money, but there was definitely a lot of challenges selling in America as like a UK person, right? As a non-USA entity.
Yeah, it seems pretty common though. A lot of people do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's where the money is. I think you use like the UK and the other marketplace like Canada as like a learning point. Once you like learn it and you're making some money, then I think the best thing to do is just like get out to the USA.
Walk through the process. How do you do that? I'm sure there's like so much LLC and bank account stuff and headaches.
Yeah. So obviously you need an LLC, which because you're not an American citizen, it means you have a disconnected entity, which is like a pass-through entity, which gets passed through to like wherever you live. So if you have a tax treaty, then you'll pay taxes in like the country that you live. But obviously this is not financial advice, just saying it. Standard. And then obviously you need like accountants, this kind of stuff. And I think the most confusing bit was you have to submit like some kind of form that shows who you are for your entity. And I did not do that the first time. So I was billed $25,000 by the IRS.
Oh,
That was a bit of a scare at the time for sure.
did you pay it?
No, we got it abated. It took like eight. It took like 8 months for them to take it off. But yeah, it was quite scary. I'm like, I was in Colombia at the time, just like walking to the supermarket, checking my email, $25,000 bill from the IRS. It's
All that.
crazy.
The anxiety that causes probably nuts. You get any email like that, I just like freak out every time.
It was good.
Are you in South America right now?
Yeah, I'm in Mexico City right now. I've just finished like a 1 month vacation in Playa del Carmen, and I'm back to like the working life here in Mexico City.
Yeah. So what about the tax situation? Well, do you pay U.S. taxes, UK? How does that work?
So I pay taxes in the UK because of the tax treaty, but because I'm not a tax resident of the UK, I don't pay income tax. So I don't really need to pay income tax because I'm a tax resident of Paraguay.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I heard that was the place everybody goes, right? That's like the zero tax
Yeah.
stuff.
Like if you're not a USA citizen, you can like do some very creative things with your taxes. But obviously, if you're a USA citizen, it's very different. Like you have to pay maybe like 130K tax free if you set it up right around there.
Oh, it hurts.
Wow.
What do you got, John?
That's crazy. So kind of what does your business look like? Do you have any employees, and kind of go through that?
Cool. Yeah, I have two admin VAs and I have one like purchaser slash sort of sourcer, and then three more sources. So in total, we're a team of six. And now you're probably wondering why I have two admins, and that's because I absolutely suck at it myself. If one admin left, bro, my business would go under. So that's why I have two. So I always keep I always keep a little bit of redundancy there. So if one goes, I still have another to like pick up slack while I hire another one.
What's the thing about everybody from the UK having these big teams of VAs? I feel like that's your all's thing. It's like there's so many guys over there with like teams. In the US, people do that obviously, but like I feel like it's not nearly as common.
Is a team of six big for like 4 million revenue though? Like I think that's like really small.
I had like zero point 0.5 on 2 million. I had like half of employee on
Yeah.
2 million. In the US, people run like, well, maybe you're right, but
Well, Soros does. What does Soros do? He probably
he
has
has
a
like
team of like
85
10,
employees.
though. Yeah, he has a
so-
lot. I guess Tom has a big team, right? Fast Track.
His sourcing team is like quite small, I think, like four or five.
Oh wow.
He
Okay.
used to have a big team, but then I think he realized that there's just not much point. You just need like better people, right? If you have great sources, like so right now we're spending about 100K a week on stock.
Wow.
So between three sources, that's like 33 grand per person a week. Which, if I'm doing that myself, like how much do I have to work to make that happen? That's a lot of work, right?
Yeah, a ton.
And it's kind of like I want to focus on other stuff, not just like doing the sourcing the entire time. Like it's my role to find the niche, and then once I find the niche and understand how it works, then I just want a team who does it for me, so I can focus on other stuff. Because otherwise, it's just like a permanent hustle, and I don't have time to do anything else. And you know what? I've seen it with so many sellers in America where their business will do so well, but the second they take a break, or the second they slack, they get bored, or they go on holiday, whatever, their business just fails. I was away in Cancun, Playa del Carmen, sorry, for a month, and I still have about $500 to $600,000 of stock. So it's like I don't need to work massively for the business to function, and that's why I have the team, right?
Yep.
So it's not just relying on what I do. I have a level of consistency within the business all the time.
Yeah, I always say that I wish I would have set things up like that. It's probably a huge reason I quit doing it. It's because I was like, the effort I'm putting in to make the money is going up and the money is going down in comparison. And it's like, I don't know why I didn't have the, foresight to see that in the future. But what do you think made you do that early on? Because you were like I remember you telling stories about you selling printers. Like you were like hustling. So when did you were like, yeah, I'm going to make it a company? Because that's a pretty big jump to make.
Yeah. I always felt like it was a skill that I would have to learn at some point. And if managing people is a skill that I have to learn at some point, then I think the earlier that I can afford to do it, the better. So I have more time and experience learning how to do it. Because actually, what I did in the UK is that I grew, as you said, like we have big teams typically. I grew like a team of 6 or 7, just doing 80K a month in revenue. And then it's like, hold on, this is not working. Then I cut it down. But I think you have to start hiring people and getting used to like managing them, seeing what it's like, just to see how you should be running the business. And then once you like fully understand that, then you start raising your standards of like what you accept in your employees. Because I think whenever we get employees at the start, we're always too nice to our employees. We always want to look after them. We don't want to upset them. And then we build our team bigger and bigger because we're just bloating the company with shit employees. And I think like that's like a learning path that I had to take until I corrected that, and then just like we scaled it back down massively. So at one point I had like a team of 3 or 4, and I was still doing like 200K a month in sales. So the expectations you have high, it gets higher and higher the more experience you have with the VAs.
How long do you think it took you to like train them well? That's my problem, man, is being too nice to them. I'm just like, here's $500, just don't worry about it or whatever, which is stupid. Like,
Exactly.
you can't.
But at the end of the day, we're here to run a business, like, and a sourcer has one purpose and one purpose only: to find products that can make you money, right? If the sourcer does not make you a lot of money, then there's no point in hiring the sourcer. So I learned that we can't be nice, like, and I tell like new starters, like in the contract, that they have 40 hours per week that they have to work for us, but they have to do 10 hours of overtime that's unpaid until they get good for the first month or the first 2 months. And if they can't do that, they're not welcome in our team. Like I set that expectation at the very start. And I told them as well, I'm like, look, if you're not good or you don't pick up quick enough, we will fire you in a week. Like I don't care anymore. But if you do well, we will pop in and look after you. Like you'll get a very good bonus, you get extra days holiday, you get your birthday off. So we try and give them a good environment to work in with a lot of support and a lot of perks. But there is a lot of pressure, and if they don't perform, I'll just fire them.
Wow. How many people have you fired? You think what's the number you think?
I think last year I fired about 60.
60.
Yeah, maybe more.
That's a ton. Yeah, I got to get more like you, man. I hire one. I'm just like keep them on the string for 6 months. That's ridiculous. Yeah, that's good.
That's why people don't keep VAs or grow with VAs. And then you go, oh, my business, like VAs suck. It doesn't work with them. You got to hustle to do it all yourself. That's because you're accepting bad people into the business. But I think the challenge is when it comes to hiring is that most people just lie. They all just chat shit. They all say things they don't believe in, which is why I just started hiring super fast. I would hire like 4 or 5 at once, hoping to keep one of them and fire the rest. And typically, I ended up firing them all after like 4 or 5 days. So I just kept cycling through until we got someone we wanted to keep.
What are some red flags to look out for in that state? You talk about people lying. I know I've seen some stuff like this too.
I think like kind of like the easiest way to time track them and do the 10 hours a day of like extra study and make sure they're actually doing that study as well. And then it's like, how do they respond to your team, to your team managers? If they take half an hour to respond to a single DM, bro, they're probably just messing about. So we want someone who's like very serious, who's going to take it seriously. So if they respond too late, or I don't like their attitude, or if on like the first week they're only submitting like 2 deals a day and they're both horrendous, then I fire them. Or if I feel like they keep repeating the same mistakes, then I fire them.
Okay.
So it's kind of like we're very on top of them and what they're doing at the start to make sure they're learning. And then if I don't feel like they're doing what they should be doing and the results show that, or my manager does not like them, or like they're being rude or whatever, then we just fire them. So at the end of the day, if it takes you, for example, 10 VAs on average to find a very good one, if it takes you a month to find someone because you want to be nice, that's 10 months until you get someone good. And you don't have that long to wait for a business. If I can get that in a few weeks by like mass hiring and just cycling through them, I'd rather do that. It's a lot more upfront work, but I found that when I was going through the interviews, or like ones who had previous experience, most of them were just lying in the first place. When I first started Amazon, like 2020 and 2021, Amazon wasn't like super massive for VAs, right? So you didn't have a huge Amazon VA working culture in the Philippines. But I think now you do, so there's a lot more awareness. So I think you have to be a lot more quicker in how you approach things nowadays.
You think it's a good or bad thing, the awareness of it?
Bad.
Yeah.
Because most of them will tell them what to say on interviews and like how to react. Then they'll try to work for other clients and all this kind of stuff. Because working for so many other clients never used to be a thing until like 2-3 years ago or 2 years ago. But now it's a huge deal where you have to time track your employees. So I think now there's a lot more awareness. People have more ways of like how they can get around things, or maybe they buy a deal sheet and they just submit deals on the deal sheet, so they don't do any work, right? They have a lot of nuances of like how they can navigate around like how you're trying to catch them out. So I'm just like, I'm very strict with them. We time track them. If they're not doing what they should be doing, we just fire them. We don't mess about. If they're like, oh sir, but I was sick. Yeah, did you tell us? No, therefore fired. Bye bye.
Yeah. I just had a VA that was sick all the time, and now that I'm thinking back, I'm like, they were definitely just lying to me constantly.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's
They're just milking it, man. They're absolutely milking it. And to be honest, I don't blame them. If I was them, I might do the same. Like sign up for 5 or 10 clients, get some money here and there. Because the same way it's on them, it's their fault for doing that. It's also the Amazon seller's fault. Because when you think about it, so many Amazon sellers don't know how to manage them, or they don't even know how to run their own business, and they're hiring people. So these VAs will join like super motivated, wanting to work, and then what do you find out? Their employer doesn't know what they're doing, so the VA's just stuck there doing nothing, and then they work for 6 months, and they feel like they're becoming like really good, and then they interview for other jobs as well, and then they get fired or something. They start doing like multiple jobs because their employees are bad. So it's like the VAs are in the wrong, but I also think the Amazon sellers in general are in the wrong as well.
Yeah. What you got, John?
What does your hiring process look like then? So if you fired like 60 people, are you just constantly hiring and firing to go through it? And are you involved in the process or no?
Sometimes I'll do like the first interview, which is like 10 minutes. I'm just checking their background, like where they're working, their internet connection, like their location. And then I'll ask them a few questions, and then I just pass them on to my purchase manager for like another 10-minute interview. And then I'll have like another call, or I'll just set the expectations on the first interview, like you must work this amount of hours, blah blah blah, and just pass them on to my manager. And then if she likes them, if she likes the character, we'll just hire them, see how they do, and then probably just fire them in a week.
You plan on growing it?
They all just lie, man. I want, like, I used to create this like very complex interview system on like onlinejobs.ph. I'm like, put the yellow red in the comment section, which I still would do just so they see it. But it's like they all know what Amazon is nowadays, and they can, if it's like a remote interview, they can just say whatever they want to say for you to believe them. And there's like so many guides of what they should say. So I feel like I only see how they work and who they are once they actually start work. But I just set the criteria that you must work extra hours a day, and if you don't do that, we'll fire you. I feel like that just really helps, because then, and you tell them they're time tracked too. So if you include those two, a lot of them will actually just ignore the final interview. They just won't bother. They'll go on to their next interview.
I bet there's some guru in the Philippines. I think I've said this on here before. That's just like $100 for my course, and I'll show you how to get 50 jobs on Online Jobs PH at once. Like, guarantee it.
Bro, definitely.
For sure. And it's probably making a lot of money doing that. So, how big do you want to get it? How like do you plan on growing it? How much you doing now? You say at 400K a month?
So I did 4 million last year.
Okay.
I was thinking of scaling to 8 million this year, but the challenge I have is that I don't understand the direction of Amazon.
That's a good topic.
It's like, what is Amazon trying to do? They're giving everyone section 3s. They're giving 1-day permagates. Is Amazon a safe platform to grow? Like, I don't have the answer to that. Because the reality is, if I have 600, 700, $1 million of stock in Amazon, if my main brands get permagated, what do I do with that much stock? I have no idea, man.
Yeah, it's over because you can't sell it on eBay and Mercari because you'd flood the market. Like this stuff wouldn't work. I just went on a rant about this recently. Like I had all these Converse shoes to where they all got like removed or whatever. Everybody else's got removed too. So the Converses went from $80 on eBay down to 40, and you can't sell them. It's like because there's not enough demand out there, which we've heard on this a lot. Walmart is like the place to move your stuff. So you could obviously get on Walmart and sell probably a lot of stuff you're selling, if I had to guess, especially wholesale.
Yeah, I want to set up like a parallel system where every product that I sell on Amazon must be able to be sold on Walmart.
Okay.
So that way, if I get ruined on one marketplace, I can just redirect all the traffic.
Yep. Yeah, it's scary, man, because it's like you're playing. I don't know if you've gambled before or anything, but like eventually you have to take your chips off the table.
If you're still listening to the podcast at this point, you are into it and a fan, and we really appreciate that. If you could do us a solid and subscribe, and do all that stuff, it really helps the podcast grow. And secondly, if you could tag us on Instagram, just take a picture of what part you are at the podcast. If you like it, tell us what you think about it. Tag me at Side Hustle Experiment, and I will definitely share it. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Or you're going to lose. Like the house has an edge. And with these Section 3s, it's like you can just keep reinvesting money, but your ROI is small. The money you invest is way more. As soon as you get pulled for $1 million, you're just done. Like all the years of your work just wiped away kind of. All you have left is like the little experiences along the way, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the issue. It's like, and when you think about like the current, like the logistics and like how Amazon sells your products right now, you have like a 1 month FC transfer for all your products since like July. So I don't think they really care anymore about expanding that much because their service is like going to the ship, to be honest.
Oh, why do you say that? I haven't been on there in like a year and a half, so I don't even know.
The FC transfer is like a month long. Like this never used to happen, and they've come down on like reimbursements for stock of like how they compensate. They're just getting so strict, and I think they're over-regulated. I think the regulation of Amazon is killing them.
Okay.
Maybe Trump can change that. I don't know. But it's kind of like then you have all the brands themselves wanting to sell on Amazon, and Amazon not giving you enough time to send out your stock. So it's kind of like, would I recommend Amazon to like a new business owner? Never, man. Never in a million years.
Wow. That's interesting to hear you say that, actually. I didn't expect you to say. I thought you'd be more like bullish on it, I guess. Because usually guys with big numbers, this is a direct correlation on this podcast. Everybody that's doing big numbers, they're always hyping it up. Everybody else is always like, yeah, this shit's scary, all this. But it's interesting to hear you say that.
Well, I got hit like a lot last year, maybe like 150 grand of losses. I got sent to a liquidation center. Given our volume of like revenue, it's fine. We can cover that. But it's kind of like, if this keeps happening again and again and again, how can I sell on the Amazon platform? Because you have no security of the items that you're selling. You have no security of your business. So I'm kind of like in a middle ground where I want to scale the business, but I don't know if I should or if I can. But then it's kind of like, if I don't, the opportunity cost could be like between $400K and $500,000. So I don't know the solution. I keep thinking about it, but I don't know yet.
Yeah,
Should I go balls to the wall or no?
What are you leaning towards? Or like, what do you think is going to like, I mean, you got to make the decision eventually, right?
I'm winging balls to the walls. I'm always winging. Like, I'll go to bed thinking, okay, let's descale Amazon a little bit, just try and keep it like 4 million to 5 million a year. And then I wake up in the morning and I'm like, nah, let's fuck it, I'm all in.
That's good.
So I'm like in my morning cycle.
Yeah.
That's really funny too, because I see her a lot. Like, so when TikTok went down for the band or whatever, I don't know, we'll post this like 2 weeks out, so it might not even be relevant. But basically, I saw like a lot of core sellers. They're like, yeah, like that's why like no platform is stable. Like Amazon's where it's at and all this stuff. And like, it was just like funny to me. Like, it just didn't correlate. Like, we knew TikTok could go out of business or whatever. We've known that for months. So people who had product on there could either go to Amazon, they could go to Walmart, they could do Shopify, whatever. Like, TikTok did not want this to happen, right? Amazon is issuing these Section 3s. Like, it's all Amazon.
Yeah.
Creators had time. Like, no one lost any money. Like TikTok wasn't like, hey, we're locking up your funds. Everyone could just PayPal withdraw. And I was like, you guys cannot be serious. And it's just kind of funny. I don't know if you see it, but like on Twitter, it's just getting more and more and more. Like instead of interviewing like someone doing 500,000, everyone's interviewing people doing like 20 million. Like, you could be this person. Used to be like, hey, if someone does 500 grand, like they're a great interview. But now that they just are raising it and raising it so high, and no, everyone's like, it's fine. There's still opportunity. It's just it boggles my mind that like I saw someone do a YouTube video the other day. They're just like, yeah, it's risky, but this is still the best opportunity out there.
It's
And like I can help you do this safely. And it's like I just don't know how these people like sleep at night.
like every new account will get Section 3 is how it feels right now. If you have a new account, after a while you will get Section 3. So then you have to manage your cash flow on the assumption you're going to be banned for a month or two, which is just absurd.
that is a crazy thing. It's like basically a guarantee. Yeah, it's like so many people get them. You basically have to just count that into the business model. It's like you're just going to get shut down for a month or two. You don't know when. Just consider that at some point.
And this is the thing, like you knew TikTok was going to get banned or something was going to happen to it. And I'm like, is the same happening to Amazon and we're just being oblivious to it? Like you have the permagates, all this kind of stuff. The FC transfers are so long. They're clamping down on like reimbursements. Like, is that the sign of the end of Amazon? Or is it still fine? Or is Amazon just cutting out the smaller sellers and we'll just keep big sellers only?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've seen my like kind of theory about this on Twitter, but maybe this will relate to you a little bit because I know you did a lot of beauty, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had the thought. I did a coaching thing, 2 years ago, or whatever. And I met this guy that was selling drunk elephant stuff that he was getting off Walmart that was fake, and his margin was like 200%. He was doing like 20K a month, and I started realizing, I'm like, dude, that's like horrible to do because if that stuff is bad for someone's skin, now you've like really jacked up like hundreds of people. Like you like send them to the hospital and stuff.
Yeah.
So then I just started thinking about the beauty stuff and the grocery stuff, which are obviously huge categories. These brands cannot want other people to sell this stuff. Like it is a massive liability because Amazon customers don't even know they're not buying it from the brand. They think they're getting it from Drunk Elephant. And if that stuff happens, then it goes back on the company. So I saw all that happen. I saw the Section 3s. And my theory was that these brands are putting a ton of pressure on Amazon along with the government to kind of like, we can't let all these people ruin our reputation all the time. So Amazon's got to tighten up, or the brands are going to be like, take us off the platform like Nike did, years ago. And I think that that'll like cascade along all these different categories. Cause you put on fake shoes, it's not going to, cut your feet aren't going to fall off, but they still don't want fake shoes going around. People paying $150 for $12 Nikes or whatever. I think that is a big push of it as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's the over regulation, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how does Amazon clamp down on all of this, but still give freedom to sell? Because if there's so much regulation, only the brands are selling, then Amazon is no longer a marketplace. So then what is it? It's just a place to buy goods, right?
Yeah. It might just, I think that they're just going to compete with Shopify. It'll be like a brand centric platform. Like if you want to launch a brand, maybe they make that easier to start your own brand. And then the reselling part of it just cuts down and down. Cause I just don't see that it brings like a massive benefit on there for them. It's just a lot of like headaches it is a lot of revenue, but nothing compared to, the brands doing revenue on there.
Yeah, I have no idea if they actually make much money from like the products that they sell, or we sell. Sorry, but I think we account for like 60% of like all sales.
Yeah, but that's third party? That counts private label brands too, right?
Does it? I have no idea.
Yeah,
I think it does count private label, but what a lot of people like the gurus love to like say that 60%. But like if you break down Amazon's revenue, like I was looking at this the other day because I saw something and I was like, I wonder how much like really does Amazon make? And don't quote me on this, but like basically their AWS, like basically their servers, like they make a shitload of money that way. And they just have servers. I'm sure maybe they have some issues with customer service, like my site's down or whatever, but nothing compared to like the reselling market. Like if I had to guess like how much money they make like when you layer on like the headaches from sellers and brands and all this other stuff, they have much more profitable like ends of their business. Like reselling is probably like the smallest. And I always say like as Amazon gets bigger and makes more money, they don't need the third party sellers. They could buy the paper towels themselves. Like it was a genius business model. Hey, you guys buy all this stuff, move it on our platform and we'll share some revenue. They don't need that now. You really think that Amazon needs you to sell Clinique product? They could just go make a deal with Clinique and say, hey, give it to us for 50% off. You'll never have anyone sell anything for fake ever because we'll kick them all off tomorrow. And Clinique will be like, okay, that makes sense. Like,
Somebody
here you
told me
go.
that Amazon doesn't really want like the direct. Amazon doesn't want the direct contracts themselves with the suppliers. Like that's not really something that they want. I don't know who told me that though. Like someone related to Amazon told me that.
Interesting.
But I think there's a lot of headache that comes with Amazon directly dealing with the suppliers, and suppliers don't really want to, or the brands don't really want to talk with Amazon either, because Amazon's like very strict and is an absolute a dick to like most negotiations because they know they have power.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know. It's like it's very tricky because if this is like what we're saying, then it's like Amazon is not like sustainable for the long term then. But then the question is like, how much time do you have left to milk the system?
Yeah, that is. I feel like it's not any short term where it's going to end. Like I feel like I was preemptive about all this stuff. Now it did get way worse. It's like I feel like as soon as I stopped selling, but it hasn't gotten to the point where you can't make money. Obviously, you're making a ton of money. We have people on here all the time that are making a bunch of money, but I think eventually the risk to reward will. So somebody was on here. They said something really good. Is that eventually there'll be the time where a 16-year-old will work 60 hours a week to make $50K a year. And that's kind of the time where you have to get away from it. It's like when it becomes too hard to even be profitable for the amount of hours you're putting in or the capital you're putting in, I guess. Which I hope that's not the case, but probably a few years away for sure.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. The issue for me is just the permagating. I can work around most things, but the permagating, the 1 day permagate for your brands is like the most absurd thing I've like, ever seen. And I was telling my friend like earlier today, I was like, this time next year, I think half of us will be gone.
Really?
Yeah.
What you're an arbitrage op still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not in there anymore. I know they usually have their finger on the pulse big time. What's the vibe in there from all? I know there's some massive sellers in there. Like, how are those guys doing?
I have no idea. I haven't been like super active. I guess if you have brand directs or exclusives, then you're fine. But everybody's always talking about like brand exclusives and like how it's going so well for them. But I've never shown anyone show actual proof of it. Like send me the link to the brand that you have on like your specific Amazon account for that brand. I only know one person who does it like insanely well.
So you think these people are kind of like lying about this stuff?
Not lying, but is the opportunity really as good as they're saying? I don't know. Like I'm very neutral about it, or maybe a little bit skeptical.
Interesting.
We had someone on recently and they were just like, yeah, brand direct isn't all what it's cracked up to be. Like these brands they drop you, they want to sell on themselves, or like they kind of use you to test the market. And then once, you could get their sales up, they're like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. Like, we're just going to take this over. They make it seem like the end all be all. And supposedly this person was like, yeah, when you were like, no, we're going to keep doing this. Then they just like issue, the section 3, or we had someone on that does private label and he's like, as a brand owner, I have this button. Like I just put like section 3. That's it. No questions asked. Amazon doesn't say anything to them. I own the brand. He just says they did not buy this. Correct. It must be fake. Boom. He said he'll send the Voorhees letters to be nice, but if you don't get off after the Voorhees letter, he just basically section 3s you. He's like, it takes a minute. He just pushes like this button. And I was like,
that's
damn.
Crazy. That's absurd. But yeah, but maybe it is legit then. Maybe it isn't legit though. You just have to find the right angle to do it. Well, I'm always questioning like, are these people talking about it because there's money in selling it, or is actually that good of an opportunity? And maybe I'm just like completely, what's the right word, delirious to like the opportunity, which could be possible. But at the same time, I've never seen a store that's doing it successfully, apart from like the major ones who have like hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars. Like, how are we, with our like 100K sales per month, 200K sales per month, going to get this exclusive contract to sell their brand? We have to buy 3 or 6 months worth of stock at once. When if it's not even on Amazon, you don't even know how much it sells in the first place on Amazon. and then you have to do all the PPC. If you're doing all this work, why not just like learn the skill of creating your own brand?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Does it sound better than like what it actually is? Because I always thought before that's just a great marketing angle is like, look, you're exclusive with the brand. But then we've had people on and maybe I'm getting conned on it. I'm just like, well, I guess it does work. But yeah, I was skeptical before. Then we have all these people that talk about it. And I'm like, I'm not as skeptical anymore. And then you say this and I'm back to being skeptical. I'm like, yeah, because it's not like you're some guy doing 40K a month, man. You're like a big seller and you do the wholesale stuff. So if this would have fell into somebody's lap or somebody would have heard about it, I mean, it probably would be you, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of like how do the logistics of it actually work? Like, does a brand already exist on Amazon? How many like UPCs do you have to create? How many months of stock do they want you to purchase? Like, I think it's like so nuanced. And as you said, they can just take over it from you. But then I see like these massive Amazon companies like Pattern taking over the big brands. So what? Are you just going for all the small brands? Like, I don't fully understand how it all works, but yeah, I'm definitely very skeptical. And from what I've been told from a few people, is like, yeah, it's not as good as it sounds. But then what you said, Drew, is a fantastic marketing angle.
The best. It's probably what Amazon always is like marketing angles are popping up that are great for the core sellers, but that's definitely a good one because it makes you feel like there's no competition because all I have to do is find this brand and I get rich as hell. Which
Yeah,
is that true? I don't know.
like if someone starts showing me the brands that they've started creating and like the money they're making, yeah, sure, I'll believe it a lot more. But then it's like, of how many people that get taught it, how many people are actually making it work? Like, and by making it work, like what, 10 grand net profit per brand at least?
Yeah.
There's no point doing all this work to make 2 grand, right?
Yeah. No, I agree.
So I think there's a profit, uh, like what, a profit metric there that you should have. Like, yeah, you got a brand exclusive deal, okay, but how much money are you making from that brand exclusive? Like, if you're spending 6 months to add like an extra 5 grand to the bottom line, isn't that just a waste of time?
Definitely. Yeah, it is. But I guess you get so hyped up on it if somebody taught it to you, then it's like that's amazing, man. Right?
Yeah.
That's
So
the kind of
I'm skeptical, but I do believe that there's a few people who do make it work. But it's like, I don't know, I don't fully believe it yet. And I
what are some
don't
other
know.
stuff in the whole thing, the whole space of like that space that you're kind of skeptical of? This will make for good clips for the intro if you have any juicy stuff to say.
Wait, what was that again? Can you repeat
Like,
it?
anything that you're skeptical of the whole like just the coaching thing or things that you see that you're like, I know that's not how it works. Like bigger things too, not just the simple stuff like that. Like that, I don't think a lot of people would have that take that you just had.
I do
But
think it's funny too, because like we never got to that level, but someone like we see people that are doing like, let's just say like 100 grand a month, and like we've been there, and we kind of know that they're full of shit because like that's not how it works, right? They're, oh, I spent $10,000. Like, yeah, you're not spending 10 grand to make 100. So at your level, like you probably just laugh at so much shit on Twitter.
I don't really pay attention to Twitter that much anymore. I usually like write my thoughts, whatever I think on it. Like if I'm really bored, I'll start trolling to get people pissed. Um, but it's like, what do I see?
misconceptions, that type of thing.
Pardon?
Misconceptions, that type of thing.
Like, this is the thing. I really don't pay that much attention to Twitter anymore. But definitely, like the brand exclusive one, that angle was pushed like so much. Oh, actually, the thing where you do like group wholesale buys, like what's that all about?
Okay, explain. We have no. Me and him have never done wholesale, so
So again, it might work, it might not. But people are always talking about group wholesale buys, like you buy these amazing products as a group. But then it's like, how does that actually work in practice? Do you have one company that purchases the product, and then you have, and then from that one company you invoice the rest of the businesses? But then what? But then you relate every single account. So this group wholesale buy. If you're all buying from the same person, which comes from one wholesaler, then every single account gets related. So if you're doing stuff like that, and then one of the people do some shady shit, well, if you get a section free, does everybody get a section free? And then if you don't know the actual wholesaler, if they're keeping it obscured, how do you even know what you're buying is legit? I think so many people let spending money get to their heads that the logic or the reasoning of what they're doing kind of goes out the window.
Interesting. Yeah, I've heard of a similar situation what you just said happened recently to somebody I know pretty well. They went in on this deal. One guy got Section 3, and he's like kind of panicking of maybe you know these people. I know you know these people, and he was like, "Do I sell this stuff? What do I do here? Because I'm connected to this guy. I get Section 3 like really fast." And kind of was freaking out about it, which kind of what you outlined there. But I guess I don't know. It sounds cool to go in with your friends and spend like $100,000. I guess that's why people do it.
But why can't? So the thing is, I think the main person will be taking some margin, right? Whoever set that deal up will be taking some margin off that, and maybe that's why they don't want to show the original wholesaler. But at the end of the day, you want the original wholesaler to like invoice them all separately. But then you want to do your own due diligence on the wholesaler.
Yeah, which makes it difficult. Do you know anything about this like parallel importing thing? I know they talked about that in arbitrage ops a bit back when I was in there. What's that type of thing? Or if that's given too much sauce, then hopefully that's not what you do. I don't know. It's like from other countries or whatever.
Yeah, I know a lot about that, but it's like, am I giving too much sauce here?
Yeah, I mean, how many people? We don't have that many listeners, man. But you never know; it could get out and ruin your edge.
The parallel import though is very interesting now in terms of like what's happening with Trump, because where you can import from is going to change. But then most USA products come from outside the country; they're all imported. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work. But I know that there's been a lot of people importing from like Turkey buying fake socks. I think that was the main spot that people were buying fake socks from.
Interesting.
But it's like, if you're buying from different countries, you have to think of like, do you have to get like VAT registered, for example? Or in Mexico, I think it's like IVA. So, and then do you have like the distribution set up, or are they going to, is your international supplier going to ship that for you? And then who handles customs? From what I have read or heard, some people will buy shoes from outside the country and then they false declare it as a different tariff code. So they're not importing it into the country legally. But because they're doing that, they're getting it much cheaper and they're not paying the 16% tariff codes either.
You're explaining exactly. I think that this is like what I was thinking. This is what I've heard of as well. A lot of the big shoe guys, that's like how it goes. That there's like a lot of little hoops you have to jump through. And it's like a really risky thing because from what I understand, the shoes they're getting aren't exactly like what you'd see in the store. They're a little bit different, like a variation. Yeah, so this is what I've heard.
Like if the UPC doesn't match, or the EA, so you got the UPC, then you have the EAN. The EAN is like the European version, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the EAN or the UPC doesn't match, like if Amazon Section 3's you could be just fucked. Like, there's no getting around that. If you're selling an EAN product on a UPC listing that has no EAN or it doesn't match, then you technically cannot prove it is exactly the same product.
And then there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. It's like when some people buy tools. I've heard some people are buying like tools of like, so you have like different generations of like Milwaukee tools, right? So maybe they'll buy a third generation Milwaukee tool and they'll sell it on a fifth generation Milwaukee tool listing. Obviously the ASIN and the UPC story is different. So if you get a Section 3 for that, you'll be screwed as well, or very likely screwed. But it's a different product. I think what we've seen over the last year is that Amazon has clamped down massively on the EANs and the UPCs for the listings. Like if they're not a match, then that listing is not compliant with Amazon's regulations. And because Amazon's becoming more regulated, they're now clamping down on this stuff a lot more. So I think people have to be way more careful. But going back to the import of like the socks and the shoes, like I think a lot of the socks that come from Turkey are fake. And if you're doing that from like a certain supplier, well, Amazon will find you pretty easy. You have to be very careful about who you buy from, where you buy, and making sure that your account does not get related to other people. Like if you're doing a group buy, you're all buying the same stuff, you all have the same invoices. Well, if you both submit the same invoice to Amazon, well, your accounts are probably going to be related in some way or format now.
Forever, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are calling me conspiracy theorist because when the big Section 3s were happening, people were like, hey, like I'm selling all my Nike inventory. If you want to buy it, like these are the prices. And I think I made a YouTube video being like, that is the worst idea ever. Basically, if I bought all of Drew's inventory, Drew's going to send it to either me or my prep center. And then I'm going to send the same exact amount of what Drew had to Amazon, and they're not going to figure that out. Like, they're not going to link our addresses or anything like that. Or, like, Amazon wouldn't track that. I'm like, they're deactivating people for no reason. Like, you don't think
Yeah.
they're going to know that Drew's stuff moved over to this, and then magically Drew's stuff in the same exact quantity just happened to plop into my account 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later.
Same for the group wholesale buys. So it all goes to the same prep center, same distribution path. Or if it comes by container, Amazon can probably do the maths and look at like Import Genius or something, and just total up the numbers. Like you can read containers through Import Genius by checking the tariff codes for that container. You look at the supplier you have. Okay, now check them out in Import Genius for the tariff codes and the quantities shipped. Is there a potential match?
And is there any aspect of that could be illegal as well? If all three of us got into a thing and we're all like, well, we're going to hold the price at $32 because we're the only people that can have it. Is that not price fixing? I bet as well.
Price fixing, yeah.
Yeah, that seems like, because you can't undercut each other. If you undercut me, I'll be pissed at you. But like, also, I can't tell you not to because that's illegal. So, what if there's 5 people in on this? They have to be price fixing. There's no other way you can fairly compete.
Yeah, I do think that's very nuanced. Though.
Yeah.
I think it's technically is price fixing, but what if they're not aware and they just have like the same mins? Is it then price fixing?
Well, now they are aware. I mean, that is you have to look at it that context.
Right. If there's like DMs of like saying, yeah, don't go below this price, set it to this price, then yeah, that is price fixing.
Yeah. I know a guy in RBops that he's like an anonymous guy. I'm sure you've talked to this guy. He doesn't talk to anybody anymore because he got scared of all this stuff that's happened. He's like, I'm not going to be linked with anybody. If we ever get cracked down, I don't want to know that I'm talking to somebody. I remember I would share a bunch of stuff with him and he would rarely share anything. I'm like, this guy's just greedy. But then I heard later on, like he just does not want, he's very afraid of that kind of stuff because he thinks that I guess a crackdown could happen. And then it's like, they can just pull your Discord DMs or pull your text messages. And then you probably have committed to crimes you don't even know about if you're trying to keep the price at the same level or whatever.
If they pull Discord DMs, that would be pretty scary, actually. If they could go that far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Which it could happen though. That stuff happens in other industries. With like the education space, there's guys that'll do $30 million a year running info products and then they get subpoenaed for everything. I mean, publishing.com, I think that just happened yesterday. Publishing.com is a big, you know what that company is? They teach people how to make books for Amazon, like Kindle and stuff, AI generated books. They just got investigated. They do $50 million a year. I think Hormozy might own a little bit of them, and they're getting like really cracked down on because of a bunch of different aspects of like lying to the customers, obviously, but also just flooding Amazon with garbage and that type of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's interesting. You're right, but we just have to be so careful about how we approach the game now. But like, I don't trust like sharing wholesale deals with people or like, doing that invoice thing unless I know exactly how they run their business and their own ethics. Because like when it comes to Twitter, bro, people are buying from like Telegram and stuff. They buy from anywhere. They don't care as long as they can spend money. They just don't care about the consequences of what could possibly go wrong.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the info stuff a little bit because I know I had messaged you about some coaching to ask how your stuff was going. I gave you a big, give you a stamp of. I promoted you on Twitter, right? I think so. I was like, "This is a great deal." Because you were, what was that? What was that? I forget that even happened. Now you sold something, dude. Great offer that you had.
Oh, I was selling my. So I was quitting shoes to start a new niche because I didn't really like shoes. I hated it actually. It was so annoying. The returns is too much.
Terrible.
So I was teaching everything I knew for like 10 grand or something to 3 people.
Yeah. Did you sell it?
Yeah, they're all spot sold. But then I realized I should have charged way more.
Yeah, I said that. Somebody asked me about it. He's like, "You think this is worth it?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, he should be charging $30K at least for that. Because I ran that big seminar where I just gave away everything. I undercharged too. I should have done more as well. But it's like, Yeah, you don't understand how valuable it is for people to get every bit of information, dude. That's like,
But then it's like, do they have the money to pay for that? Because putting 30 grand down for a lot of people who you're selling to is a lot of money.
yeah. But if you got 3 of them, you just made almost 100 G's.
That's true. That's true. But that actually went super well. Like one of the guys who did it had no experience, and in the first 3 months, he did 750K in revenue.
Damn,
Absolutely,
that's
mental.
awesome.
And now he's off the now he's off the radar. He doesn't want anyone to know who he is because he's like a big seller now.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's insane.
How was the rest of your coach? Yeah, you coached for a while, right?
Yeah, I coached for a while until I got to the point where I was like just making a lot of money, and then coaching just wasn't really worth it. So I just stopped it.
Talk about that a little bit. We always talk on here about like how it's not all it's cut out to be, and to scale that's like really, really difficult. Talk about that a little bit because you decided to stop doing it, right? So,
Well, at first I was doing like charging like $4,000 or $5,000 for 3 months, and if you have like 5 clients, yeah, you're making $5,000 a month, but it's like 10, 20 hours work a week, right?
Mhm.
So the way I positioned it was, I did coaching until I had enough money or to put more money into scaling the business, because I never had to take money out of the business because I had the coaching business.
Yep.
So because I did that, I could just scale way quicker. And then once I started making like 20, 30 grand a month consistently, I was like, yeah, I don't need the coaching business anymore. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Although
And
now I sometimes like get bored, and I'm like, maybe I could do like a bit of coaching here and there, just because it's like something to do, and it was fun to do. Like if you're teaching very intelligent people, it's super fun.
yeah. What about if you're not? What if the people aren't super intelligent?
Pardon?
Did you get anybody that wasn't super intelligent?
Oh, many.
How did that go?
Maybe I'm a little bit too honest, actually. Holy shit.
No, it's okay. That'll make a good clip.
Or not necessarily intelligent, not necessarily not intelligent. They just don't put in the hours. Like people underestimate how many hours you should be putting in when you first start. Like I worked every single day nonstop for the first 8 months of starting the business. And then even when I reset it after shoes to the new niche, for 6 months I was back to 18 hours a day every day.
Jeez.
Like you just have to go into the trenches until you figure it all out. And then you can think about like how to scale it, all the other operational stuff. But if you don't do like the initial workload, you don't get anywhere. But you still, no matter how intelligent you are, you still have to build a new skill.
I like that. Can you talk about when you got kind of like fake suspended? Like what was going through your mind when you got that email, and then were they just like, sorry, like this is fake, or like how did that work?
It's just like, for fuck's sake. It's like, where'd this come from? They're suspending me because I got a counterfeit of one ASIN. And it was like, you have to submit all this documentation. So I was like, right, they said I had like 2 weeks or something. So I'll just stop all purchasing, get as much money as possible out, submit all the documentation. But really, there's not that much that I can like do if I get suspended. The problem is that I have credit cards and all this kind of stuff. Although fortunately, I got the email just after January. If I got that on like 1st of December, then that would have been a mess. Then I'd be really annoyed. That's when all the stock is. Like in January, I've got more cash than stock at that point, right? It's all sold. But like my idea was just to try and put it on Facebook, try to put it everywhere and get attention to it. And I think it worked because I got in contact with the Amazon seller Twitter. At first, there was like, oh, I'm gonna sneeze. There was like, yeah, it's legit. You need to fix that quick or something. Then they came back the next morning. Sorry, that email was a mistake. Like, what the hell? But
Yeah,
like, I have always looked fine.
Yeah, were you freaking out?
Not massively. I still have 150 grand or something outside of Amazon, or 200. So I don't have all my money in Amazon anymore. I try and keep like 150 or something out, so I can live for like 3 or 4 years or start a new business or do something.
Yep. That's a good idea. That was exactly. I had a number in mind. I haven't said it, so I'm not going to try to say it. But then I was like, I'm going to quit Amazon when I hit this number. And then I was like, I'll run that seminar, get some more cash. Then I'm like, okay, this should last me 3 to 4 years. There's no way I like can't make it work with something towards the end. I feel like everybody should kind of do that. Have like ideally you want it as much as possible, but 3 to 4 years I feel like is pretty good. That shows your work.
6 months is fine, I think. Or if you go Thailand, like 2 years with 6 months salary. But it's kind of like, I understand what you're saying by getting to a certain point of cash and stop Amazon. But if you just build a team, you can just keep milking it for as long as possible. I think that's what you should do, and then use the profits to build that stack outside of Amazon, and then just keep Amazon running.
In hindsight, I should have done that. Really, I just am not very good at managing people based on all the stuff you said at the beginning. I'm just horrible at that, and I didn't really have the foresight to like try to do it. I think I don't know. I didn't have the right people talking to me that were like, "You need to like scale this up," because I didn't know a lot of those people until we did this pod. Then I'm like, "Damn, man, everybody's got a team. I should have done that before." I was just solo one VA that was trash for like years and got to 2.5 mil. I'm like, hey, this is. Yeah.
And that makes sense because many Americans are just caught up in like hustle, don't get VAs, work.
Yep.
And it's like, it's only sustainable for so long. And then once your niche changes, you're basically back at square one because you don't have a team to like tell what to do or to adapt. So it's kind of like, if it's only you, once things change, you have to restart again and you have to keep restarting. But you only have so much energy for this business. So if you keep doing that, you'll just burn yourself out. Then you're like, oh, fuck it, I'm done.
Yep. Example A. That's me. Because a lot of stuff like that happen. I'm like, this just isn't even worth it. I got enough money. Let's just rock. But yeah. What else you got, John?
Do you wish you did anything differently? Like looking back at your journey, like would you do, like you mentioned before, like would you start a brand over doing arbitrage, or is there anything else that comes to mind?
I wish I took more risk. When it comes to like printers and this stuff, I probably could have taken like more loans and more credit card debts. Because like the first 3 years was actually the golden years for us on Amazon. So I wish I went like a lot more deeper and a lot more heavier. And then maybe scaled up mentorships more. So like scaled it up, started charging more money. Because if you look at how Miles has done mentorship, he's done it so well. He's made so much more money. So maybe just grinded a lot harder for the 3 years. But now it's like, but now my question when I say that is, well, if I half-ass it this year, I'd only do like 4 million revenue, when I could have done 8 or 10 million. Would then next year when I'll be thinking, shit, I should have went all in this year. But you don't know that in hindsight, right? You don't know if you're going to get suspended.
Yeah, that's a good takeaway. I remember back in those days, too, the COVID stuff, I really wish I had a guy's mini credit card because I was spending every dollar. I'm sure you did the same thing, spending every dollar every day. And you're like, I probably shouldn't get more, but really what we should have done is just get as much capital as possible. We'd be millionaires by now. And then show it all on Twitter and sell mentorships. Then you'd be really rich.
Then you get more money. Then you put that money to buy more stock. It just all compounds. I think like what I've learned though from like all of this is that every business, every market, every niche will always have trends. Like, and when the niche is very fresh and it's trending up, that's when you really got to hit it as hard as possible. You only have so much time in a business to make money before that niche ends. For example, like when we started, it was way easier to make money than it is to make money right now on Amazon. It's like, yeah, we can make it work now, but there's so many hurdles. So I think when you find a good niche, you have to really hit it as hard as you possibly can, go all in, and just completely milk it as much as possible. And then I think the other point will then come to like, when's the right time to end a business? When's the right time to start looking for new businesses? Because an opportunity can only last for so long, and yeah, we can milk it, but if we're only focused on like on a downtrending business when there's better opportunities, there's a level of opportunity cost there. And that's where having a team comes into place so you can then focus on the new opportunities, right? So it's kind of like thinking when you start a business, when can you exit a business? And for selling on Amazon, maybe that's fine for now because we have the team that do it. But how about service-based businesses? What about like tactical arbitrage and all these sourcing softwares or leads lists? What's happening with these types of business? How are they trending? Because they would have done amazingly well during the uptrend, but now that Amazon's downtrending and they're so aggressive towards newer sellers, how are all these services looking? Like, how's SellerSnap? How's all the reprices? How are they looking in terms of users? And it's kind of like, it just rings to my mind that even for service-based businesses, they'll have their end at some point too, or at their low points. So you really got to hit the uptrend as hard as you possibly can and do everything that you can do, but not like you do it in a profit first way. So you don't start hiring tons of people if you don't need tons of people, right? You don't start doing things that you don't need to do. Everything you do within the business is revolved around making more money, and the best way to make as much money as possible with the least amount of like people leverage, service leverage, or other kind of things.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I think all those businesses are trending down. Like I guess they actually did a good job because like Three Colts bought all of them. They bought Tactical Arbitrage, Inventory Labs, all that kind of stuff. But like it's crazy to think. Like I just got an email the other day that Three Colts is bundling it all together for like $69. You're gonna get Inventory Labs, Tactical Arbitrage, I don't know, like 5 other things. Like, and then it's just like each one of those businesses was worth $100 a month or $60 to $100 a month, and now you're getting what you'd have to pay like $500 or $600. You're getting for like $69. So it has to be going bad.
And doesn't that show you the trend of the of like the Amazon space or like the niche in general? And I think about that, and it's like you just really have to maximize the profit that when you're in the space on the uptrend, like do everything you can, but don't do too much as well. Just go wherever the money is, and just make as much money as possible doing that. Do other things so you can funnel more money into the business. But it's like don't overhire, don't over systemize. I think that's a big issue many people have. They get too excited to hiring, or they don't hire at all. There's very few people have the middle ground, or they over systemize their business so badly that they lose flexibility. They start doing tons of like custom sheets, software, all this kind of stuff. Then the business is no longer flexible. You lose your ability to pivot quick.
Yeah, I guess another takeaway from that stuff is usually these trends that come are way quicker than we think. We got lucky. 3 years for Amazon being as good as it was is like really lucky. A lot of businesses will be like a year, 6 months, and it'll come and go with all the money to juice out of it. I think in the future, and I'm sure you'll take this into whatever you do next too. Whatever the next big trend is, which something will emerge, we'll be new to something eventually in our lives. Like that will be the time when we can recognize, like, I remember this feeling before, this is it right now. I have to go hard. And then I can be set for like 10 years if I do this right, which a lot of Amazon guys did. I remember a guy in the 2020, this is when like the big sellers were doing $30K a month, like that was a big seller then. Yeah. This guy was just shoving millions of dollars in inventory, did like $5 million a month. I bet that guy set himself up for life. Just sold all the inventory. If you get out before the COVID stuff is over, it's like, man, you probably just made like 10 mil. It's over.
So he just milked it. Yeah, he milked out the peak opportunity of the niche, and then he just rethinks what he's doing. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like how I'm starting to look at many businesses, because many businesses will end. Like, even in real life, you have retail shops, right? Most of those are being fucked over.
Yep.
Like, different kind of e-coms will get fucked over. Now you have AI. I think what I'll do differently, though, next time compared to Amazon is that I'd probably look for a business partner with a very different skill set to what I have, but equally similar principles, morals, and drive. But like, I wouldn't want to do it all alone. And part of the reason there is because I wouldn't be aiming for the same level of where I'm at now. I probably wouldn't want to start a new business if it can't make minimum $500,000.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, ideally, you want a business now that can make millions, right? And if you have a partner, if you can get there like 3 times quicker, then you do that.
Yeah, even if you have to split it. Yeah, if you can get there much faster, yeah, that makes sense.
Because otherwise, if someone else has a partner and they beat you to it, well, they're taking the money because you decide to be greedy and to do it on your own.
Yep. Well, man, we've kept you an hour. You got anything else, Sean, for him?
No. Any parting words you want to say to the guests? Any advice or that you have for them?
Or questions for us? We always end like that too.
Just keep grinding and keep your margin as high as possible. don't lower your standards to spend more money. If you start accepting like 5 or 7.5 or maybe even 10% margin products, like if the market changes, you'll be hit worse because you won't be able to take the margin hit. Like maybe you'll go from like 10K net a month to like 5K net a month, just because like the standards of what you're accepting to be sourced is too low. And then another thing is just because many of the sellers are way bigger than me, way bigger than us, don't assume that they're doing low margins as well. If you only assume the negative about other businesses, then you only position yourself in a way that you'll do worse for yourself because you're assuming everyone's doing bad or that's their normal, so that's okay if that's been normal for you. You should always be looking to increase your margins no matter what.
Awesome.
Sweet. Where can people find you?
Twitter, Gavin Sweeney with 2 Ys.
Cool. Thanks very much for doing this. Go follow him, like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode, guys.
Peace.
All right,
Peace.
perfect. Peace out, guys. Thank you. Adios.